Welcome to my tutorial for Scramble for the arcade. And the win condition for this game is just going to be to beat the first loop. Whenever there's these type of games that loop, I always just consider them beaten once you complete the first loop. So that's what I'm going to detail here. It's just going to be a short tutorial since it's a short game. It took me around 40 minutes to beat. Initially, I didn't understand how to end the first loop, but I'm going to explain all that. The way the game works is you have a fuel meter at the bottom, and if it gets too low, you die from running out of fuel. So you got to watch out for that. But what I recommend doing is, I was using a turbo controller, but you can also just hold the button down possibly or mash it, whatever the game requires. But I always like to be dropping bombs and firing at the same time, which is just setting both buttons to rapid fire. In my case, anyway, the way I played it. So the idea is you need to make it through all 6 areas, pretty much. You make it through 5 areas, and the 6th area is basically just blowing up this device or whatever it is, and that ends the game, or loops it. So, always be firing at all times, and you'll probably hit the fuel tanks without even, trying to look for them. But occasionally you may want to seek them out if your fuel is really low. This is one of the harder parts with these spastic things that move up and down because there's these gaps in your bullet stream, so it's easy for those to evade your fire. The fireballs, I didn't find them to be too difficult. I stay at the very back of the screen and I just focus on my up and down movement. I don't try to look at the fuel tanks or anything on the bottom, to look at what I'm bombing. I just constantly fire my bombs and my shot out, but I don't actually look to see if I'm hitting anything. I'm just focusing on dodging the fireballs. And that's, the main thing with these kind of games is knowing what to focus on and when and positioning. So yeah, all I do is move up and down on that part and stay all the way in the back. This part can be irritating because you're shoved up against the screen, so sometimes missiles will just bust up into you and you don't really have any time to react. The best thing I found to do is more of a preventative measure of just trying to destroy the missiles that I can so that they don't, rise up into me as I'm passing through on the screen. Because their movement can be a little unpredictable, I found. Sometimes they'll just go up into me and kill me, so it is one-hit deaths as usual. You get a few lives, but you don't have any continues. But it's a very short game, but you do have to know how to play all the sections. There are checkpoints, though, so each new section has like one checkpoint in it. So you'll start at the beginning of the last section you got to, and the sections are indicated by those red squares that fill in as you get farther. So here's the final section. This you have to move really fast. So as you're shooting these fuel tanks, move to the right as you're shooting them. You see, the hit detection, if you touch the wall at all in this game, it's not like a lot of other shooters, you just die. The hitbox is very unforgiving. So you want to be moving as you're shooting, which once you see me do it properly, you'll see what I mean. So you want to move forward as you're shooting because you have very little time to get up here, as you can see. It's very tight timing. This is the hardest part of the game. And you got to be ready to move up, down, and then move out to the right as fast as you can. Because see, if you're not fast enough, that's what happens. So you really have to do this quick. So as you're shooting those tanks, make sure you're moving to the right. Don't hesitate. And you got to be moving up. As soon as you get into the area where you can move up, you need to be moving up immediately with your back against the back of the screen. You have to be all the way back as well as you're moving up to get into those narrow areas because you won't have enough room. So you got to be all the way back and moving up immediately. This part's a little bit of a zigzag in that corridor where you got to move up, down, and then you got to be moving right immediately to get out of there and get around that area again and do the same thing. Hard to explain, but you'll notice you got to do it fast. Now to end the game, simply get down to that thing that you saw me just bomb with my bomb. Make sure you're not holding down rapid fire and constantly bombing on that part because you need to do a perfectly timed bomb. And you cannot fire out other bombs while your bombs are presently on screen. So if you already have... It happened to me where I had 2 bombs on screen because I was holding it down rapid fire style. And I wasn't able to fire the bombs that I needed to fire because there was already 2 on screen. And, they're very slow. So make sure for that part that you take your thumb off the rapid fire for the bombs. Or just don't mash it. And you want to do one perfectly bombed. You want to get right up to that thing that I blew up on the base area. And then you want to drop your bomb right when your ship is basically touching it. Just don't crash into it because if you crash into it, it doesn't count as beating it. Even though, that's what I did initially because I thought that's what I saw in a video online. But I don't think that's what it was. So don't do that. So that's it. once you get close to that thing and bomb it, you'll end the first loop, and I would say you beat the game. So then beyond that point, this is the second loop. You can see it gets a little bit faster, and I can explain some of my strats again since it's such a short game. With these things, you have gaps in your bullet stream, so I kind of like to move up and down as I'm firing so that my shots come out in like a wave pattern. And I found that a little bit more effective, but sometimes you see that it goes right through the guys. The guys just go right through those gaps. So sometimes you just got to be ready to drive either up or down at the top or bottom of the screen to try to get away from them. And you're probably going to crash into them sometimes. The fireballs never gave me a problem. Even here when they're faster, I found this part to be easy. Basically just all I'm focusing on is my up and down movement and paying attention to the fireballs. And for this, I found it to be very easy. But, others may find it problematic. It is a little bit of an aggressive scene, for sure. I could see it being the hardest portion of the game for some players. For me, the harder shit was more like shit like this, where it's kind of unpredictable and I don't have time to react. And the end part where you got to drive really, really precisely to get through those corridors, for me was the hardest of all. This part, again, I don't really like it because it's just unpredictable. I mean, the best measure for me was that, like I said, to play in a preventative way and try to take out the missiles ahead of time so that they don't hit me as I'm moving forward. So I try to stay back and take out the ones I can. You want to be aware of that bomb timing. Like I said, when you're dropping bombs, you can't drop them again until the current one's exploded or are off screen. So you don't want to you don't always want to just mash bomb. Sometimes you want to be a little strategic with it. And, of course, you want to watch your fuel, but a lot of times you will hit the fuel tanks as long as you are constantly bombing and firing. But occasionally you may need to seek them out. In that corridor part, you don't have to worry about fuel because the fuel tanks are the barriers you have to shoot to move through there. So you're getting fuel as you're moving through. So at least you don't have to worry about it there. But now, from what I understand of this game, each loop your fuel depletes faster until the game is unbeatable because you run out of fuel too faster than you can regain it. And I think that's how the game ends. But I got pretty far into the second loop, but that was my first time beating the game, and that's as far as I got. I was only going for a first loop clear. And, of course, this is a 1cc game, so there's no continues or anything. But just remember, it is awkward how you have to end the game. You have to bomb that specific thing where it says base. And so I recommend, getting real close to it after you see that Konami building. Get real close to the thing you need to bomb, and then be pressing up to get out of there as soon as you drop your bomb. Now, if you do crash after you bomb the thing, I think you'll still win, but you don't want to crash into it. That seems to not work. It's better if you can try to escape, especially if you don't have any lives left, then you'll just fail. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.